ask you this then. How do you think Matt did as a bachelor? You know, a lot was thrown at him. A lot was thrown at y'all. And I don't think we talk about that enough. Yes, it's unfair that these women keep popping up on Matt, but it's also unfair to you guys because that's not normally the format of the show. No. How do you think Matt handled it? And did he make you feel seen and heard despite all the additions and the twists and turns that popped up on this season?
Going into it, considering I was new to it and I knew that he was new to it, I didn't want to hold him to too high of a standard. I did want to give him the grace to, you know, make his mistakes and try to get by as best as he could. But he totally exceeded my expectations. I think he did wonderful and he is really receptive. He definitely is a communication kind of person because once things were brought to his attention, I mean, he targeted every situation and he really, you know, handled it. And he does make you feel seen. It was something that a lot of the girls and I related on because although we had this dynamic where we wouldn't share what we talked to Matt about, like intimate details, just so that, you know, we could have that, still maintain that friendship without it getting too weird because obviously we're dating the same guy. We would express how Matt was so great at communication and he would always make you feel really good after you had a conversation with him. And one night I even expressed, you know, there's that term where people talk about, oh, like this person lights up a room. I personally haven't met someone that I could apply that to. And I felt that way about Matt. I thought every time he'd come in the room, it was like a breath of fresh air and we weren't jittery or nervous. So he was really good about making sure that we were all somewhat level-headed.
Interesting. Okay, so prior to you hopping on, we had this conversation where at this point, obviously we're right before hometowns. It's hard as a viewer to tell who he's super into. Like we don't see, and you know, and we can chalk it up to maybe the drama that took hold of everything. So we don't see a lot of the conversations between him and any of the women. And so it's hard for us to really nail down who he's into. You know, like I think going into this episode, there was like 8 or 9 or maybe 10 women left. And I was like, it's a free for all. We don't know. Like he could hand up these 4 golden tickets and it could be at random. Yeah. And so, but it's interesting because there was 3 eliminations prior to the rose ceremony. So it makes it seem like he knows who he's into, who he's keeping around. So did you up until that point, like know who he had the strongest connections with? Like, could you see it in the house? Was it very apparent? Or was it more like he's into all of us and no one was really sure?
I think in the beginning you could, because I don't know what it is. It's like when people vibe differently with each other. I think it was easier to tell at the beginning. But as you go further and further, you're thinking, well, I'm not here for no reason, you know? So he obviously sees something in each of us, which is why I think it was so important for me personally. Like I wanted to have that one-on-one to know for a fact, like, is this it or not? So I think it actually got harder to tell towards the end because even then we were all struggling and we all talked about it too. We're like, we don't know where Matt's head is at. So it was really hard to tell.